This panel really came out of a conversation that Trina and I had about what we were going to talk about this year. And it was really talking about how our consumption habits as a society have kind of got completely out of control. And that we are living now in this real throwaway society, whether it's about, just always having to have a takeaway coffee at all times, everybody seems to have one in their hands all the time, to the way that we're consuming clothes and often, buying stuff and wearing it once, twice, and then either leaving it at the back of the wardrobe or, we're finding out that apparently every second a truck full of textiles are being sent to landfill, which is just a horrifying statistic, because it just makes you, worry about the resources that went into making those clothes, and also our relationship with the stuff that we buy has become so, completely valueless. So we wanted to talk about how we are consuming. So I'm really pleased to have our three speakers who all come from different kind of parts of the industry. We wanted really to focus on technology, because I feel as though this is how we can actually change our consumption habits to some way, that we need some help on this, and actually technology maybe can kind of save us from ourselves. So we have Leo, who's amazing 3D printed headwear you will see, and you're going to hear all about that in a minute through a film that's been made about Leo. We have Lorenzo from a platform called La Blacco, which is a rental platform, but also a sharing, networking, clothes sharing platform.
Circular economy.
A circular economy, okay. And Hasna, who has an app called Save Your Wardrobe, which she will tell us about later. I was wondering if, when you were at Cordwainers at university, if you had access to this sort of technology, because you say that you started it when you were at university.
Yeah, while I was at university at Cordwainers at London College of Fashion, they had body scanners, foot scanners for the footwear students. So I think I started by 3D scanning more than printing to begin with. Because it's something so new, or that was 5 or 6 years ago, it was quite difficult to find my feet and know where I was going with it. Because I feel like there weren't maybe many people to ask or sort of lead the way.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely helpful having that there, and it kind of helped a little community of friends that work digitally as well. So we kind of all bounced ideas off each other, and it was just a learning process together.
I feel like there's a kind of feeling that sometimes with working digitally can constrain you creatively, can somehow curtail your expression, but it seems as though what you're doing is incredibly expressive.
Well, Oculus Medium is such an intuitive program. I mean, it is like design sketching. I'm just drawing constantly, and the tools you have as well, in comparison to how I would normally make a traditional hat. There are so many other stages within that before you get to the final product. Whereas with this, you can see it already, and you can make so many tweaks and test things out. And I mean, what I like most about it is that I can rotate it and see 360. Because in millinery, you're often, if you're just drawing on paper, then you're only going to see certain views, and then when you're making it, that might not match up to the side view, to the back view. Whereas this just gives me so much more scope, and it's fun.
And the material that you print in, the PLA, it was really important to you that it was biodegradable.
I mean, when I started printing, I was printing in polyamide nylon, which is selective laser sintering, which is a bed of powder, and it runs the laser through. It's quite an expensive process as well, and for me to have a printer, it would just be far too expensive to even start that as a process. So moving on to PLA, it just, I don't know, it made sense to me, and the fact it's biodegradable, I think it's great. I mean, that's the bonus.
And how long will it take for one of the headpieces to biodegrade?
So in a compost situation, about 5 years, I think. Something I definitely want to test in a compost.
Yeah.
So I keep all of the bits that fail on the printer so I can compost it.
And is there much waste?
There is some waste. I mean, it's more a case of figuring out if the file works on the printer. It's more about if there's a support system as it prints. But I can often see that quite quickly. So there is a bit of waste, but I keep all of the waste because I can compost it. But once I know that it prints fine, then it will always print the same.
And compared to traditional millinery, is there more waste when you're doing things traditionally with materials and... Whoops,
I think there definitely is, yeah, because there are so many more materials involved in it. Obviously, each hat is different, but there are often a lot of structures underneath the fabric that you see first off. So it is pretty wasteful, and a lot of chemicals we use to stiffen the fabrics as well.
Right. And you do use glue to put some of the components together?
Yeah, I do have to use a 2-part epoxy iodite to hold it together. I would like to find a glue that works. That's something I'm working on. Something that's clear and fits with this material preferably. So yeah, that's the bad bit.
How long does it take to print one of the headpieces?
Depending on size, the smaller ones in parts maybe 12 hours. The larger ones could be 24 to 72 hours. It's more I watch it for the first few hours and I know if I usually know if it's going to fail. And then I just leave it, and then I can keep making other work or keep designing.
And you say in the film that you grew up on a farm, and I was interested to know if that's helped shape the way that you think about sustainability and the way that you approach, the way that you consume.
I think that it's definitely ingrained in me because of how I saw what worked on the farm, even with the animals that we were raising and then eating them, and seeing how my dad was growing the crops, like knowing where a product comes from. I think I was maybe more aware of the life cycle of a product or what you were bringing into the world.
And that was something that, again, you were really conscious of with this project was the whole life cycle, that you didn't want to be making stuff that just you sent out into the world and it hangs around for the next 1,000 years.
I felt guilty about it. I felt guilty about it when I was at uni and figuring out what I could make and how I can collaborate with people, because the traditional methods aren't very green, so it was important.
Do you worry about the way that we are now consuming stuff and how throwaway society has become? For sure, but I feel like there are space, and I think that things are changing. Maybe as consumers we are becoming more aware of the issues. We just need to keep talking about it. You talk about encrypting files in the film and limiting the number of times that a headpiece might be able to be printed, or that somebody could download the file and then print it X number of times. Can you explain a bit more how that would work? Okay, I mean, that was more of me thinking about the future of where it could fit maybe, because obviously it depends if someone owns a printer at the other end, or if they could go to a printer near them. The idea of the encryption was more if say someone bought a product that was maybe more usable than an occasion wear hat that might break, and say if you could access 2 or 3 files and you have your printer, then you can use the product if it breaks and then you can do it again and again. important part of a milliner's work is having a relationship with a client. And you talked about being able to 3D scan
3D scan.
Somebody's head.
Yeah.
Is that something that you envisage that would be part of a process that you would go through with a client?
Yeah, I think with photogrammetry as well, and the apps that you can do it on your phone now. In theory, maybe I don't even need to meet the client in person. They could take photos around their head and then send them to me, or do it on their phone or computer, and then I can work around that. Even down to if they did have an Oculus Rift, you can both be in a virtual reality plane, and you could both be working on the hat together or whatever you're working on, which is great.
Are we going to be a bit lonely in this future world, especially, wandering around the virtual reality store? It looked a bit kind of slightly cold to me.
I think it is quite cold. I think that's when it's printed, it doesn't seem as cold. Personally, I like to shop by myself if I shop, so I don't really like being hassled. I do know what you mean, but I think again there are these programs coming out where multiple people can be in there. So maybe there could be a store assistant somewhere else in the world with their Oculus Rift on, and they can talk to you, and they can show you objects, show you photos, and all sorts.
Yeah. And could you maybe buy virtual products in this world that you actually don't end up having physical products?
You can, yeah, you can do that. I think I've mostly been working with file to print to objects, so I haven't been working so much with that, but I know people do that for like gaming design, or where you can go on websites and they have I know people that will design lots of random objects, put them up on these websites, and then they'll make a bit of money off it every time someone downloads it and puts a digital tree in their music video.
So people can basically get the retail buzz, but virtually, and then not have to add to more of the
you don't have to print
stuff
it.
in the world.
Yeah.
The addition of plants, that obviously is you still trying to get back to nature. And
I mean, I was just thinking, I'm not wearing a hat right now, and it's also where do we wear hats, and I just didn't like the idea of the hats going in a box, just like our favourite clothes that you don't wear. And I want to make stands for them and sort of give them another life. So I'm just trying to figure out how else that could work. And things like being able to put an air plant on it, and it being a hat but being displayed as a vase or sculpture. I think that's cool.
Great. Thank you, Leah. Yeah, that's great. I'm now going to hand over to Hasna. She's going to tell you about her amazing startup.
This one.
Yeah.
So hi everyone, I'm Hasna. I'm co-founder and CEO at Savior Wardrobe, a digital wardrobe management app. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about my story and my background. So I'm Tunisian. I grew up in a family of 8 siblings, with both of my parents and my grandparents. And my grandparents, both of them actually, were born in a small island in south of Tunisia, where resources management was crucial at their time, and it was farming and food resources, but also wherever we were, and they end up developing several processes. And my grandmother, both of them have this ethos of zero waste, and everything had to be made in a circular or several purposes within a lifetime. And the story I wanted to highlight today is my father's mother. She used to make everything on demand by seamstresses, and and she would request them to make the designs modular, so that when she get them at home, she can turn a dress that would, for example, she would go out with, to a day dress, and then to a nightgown, and then when it was worn to death, she would either cut them in pieces and create another dress, or she would downcycle them and repurpose them for kitchen things, and she would also keep the pieces that she can't do anything with to fill mattresses or cushions, and once in a while she would empty those cushions and mattresses and gather all the pieces of fabric and commission someone to make this carpet you can see here. And in her lifetime she made 3 of these. This is the oldest one. It's 10 meters long, over 1 or 2 meters wide, and basically it's all her clothes you can see here. And she made this in the 70s, so now it's like almost 50 years old. And my parents still use that at home. So in the summer, the good thing is, since it's made of cotton, when you put it on the floor, it keeps the heat away from the floor, so it's cooling, because in Tunisia it's very hot in the summer. And in the winter they would use it to put underneath mattresses, and this would give extra support and the mattress would go actually longer and longer. So basically one would help extend the life of the other. And actually my grandmother had developed all this process to solve her pain points, which were managing her wardrobe. She had problem of moth, and instead of using this chemical thing called naphthalene, she would just use them for the season and then repurpose them, and she didn't have to wash too much of her clothes. So basically she was managing her wardrobe without technology, and I'm not sure if she was aware of promoting sustainability in fashion, but at the end of the day that's what she was doing. And what I wanted to highlight today is that today we have a set of technology like digitalization, artificial intelligence, and data, as well as resources for us to use to promote sustainability into the fashion industry. And that's actually the story about Save Your Wardrobe. We want to help you digitize your wardrobe in a seamless way. So what we do is we help you capture your clothes either through your online purchases we found in your emails. So we've developed this AI parsing engine, or through computer vision. So when you have something that my grandmother's things or my mother's, I can take a picture, and then we use computer vision to automatically tag the features of the item. And so learning about your behavior, shopping behavior, we help you know the value of your wardrobe and know a little bit better how you are, your pattern of consumption, and help you towards a more sustainable and mindful way of consuming fashion. And the idea of extending the knowledge beyond the purchase also helps us know when divert you from the throwaway culture, and whenever we think that something could be downsized, so for example, it's not downsizing but upsizing. So take my example, but actually we got other users having the same feedback. So I'm a mom, and I used to wear a size 8 UK, and now I'm wearing a more size of 10, 12. And a lot of my clothes, I can't wear them anymore, but instead of like forcing myself and starving myself, I could send them to a seamstress to upsize my favorite clothes. And so that's what we want to do. We want to help you find the right service at the right time of your lifestyle, to make sure that you are using your wardrobe in the most efficient way. So this actually the slide that illustrates what I was telling. So basically we want, just like my mother did with repurposing all of her her items. We want to use this set of technology that we have available today to help you with your day-to-day wardrobe management. And we've conducted a research with the University of Glasgow, and the pain point people are facing at the moment is the anxiety induced by shopping more and more and feeling overwhelmed by the content of our wardrobe, and also the guilt with buying and having our wardrobe stuffed with things that we don't wear anymore, and also some micro-resistance and going towards sustainable behavior like shopping secondhand as well. So the opportunity here is to see how data can enhance our life in a daily basis, and how technology can help us not only style in an automatic way based on AI, but also putting together our lifestyle, things that are like work related or holiday related in the same platform, and help you achieve more sustainable and mindful objectives. Yeah, so that's Save Your Wardrobe.
I'm the co-founder. I'm here with our co-founder Yoon, and we're based in Paris, and we're building Lablaco, which is a circular economy social platform vertical on fashion. And it sounds a little bit complicated, so I'm just going to explain it in a few words. So the vision is basically to build a circular economy. That's my brother. It's a circular economy platform, basically to help everyone to shift to a more circular consumption system in fashion. Why? Because of course fashion is, in a kind of problematic status, I would say. With almost, numbers keep changing, but basically it's about from 70 to 80% of clothes every year are thrown away from the industry or burnt. And I just heard the other day at a conference that it's puts it a little bit in perspective, that we actually produce enough clothes to dress 4 entire generations of the human race with stopping production now. So that was kind of gave me a kind of a shock. So our platform, how it works, it's a social network. That's why we said social before. Why we create another button on your phone. I always like to explain the fact that fashion, I think at the moment runs mostly on Instagram and on Excel sheets, which are both not made for that. So basically, what we're building here is, I would say, a little bit like Google Maps is great, right? Because it's a horizontal app where you have all the industries. You have restaurants, you have offices, you have everything inside. But also Uber is really great, right? It brought me here, and it's really similar though, but it's really focused and vertical on human transportation. But it looks the same actually, it has Google Maps in the background. So what we're building is more similar to Instagram, but Instagram again has everything, right? It has food, cats, dogs, memes, it has a bit of everything. So we're trying to provide one-stop platform for fashion, where you only have fashion content, and the consumer can start acting in a circular way of consumption. So before buying anything, there's a big plus button when you log in with a pop-up that says Start Giving. And so what you can do on the platform is just basically that. You can open your wardrobe, find those clothes that I was relating to actually before, really, because I think we all have these in our wardrobe. But it's really hard, to kind of get our act together, put them in a sack, go outside, find a buyer, or upload them on, a second-hand platform and so on. It's kind of a hassle. So what we do is we just take a photo of the items on our app, and then that's about it. If somebody wants it from anywhere around the world, the item goes on your profile, and you're giving it away for $0. So instead of selling it, you're actually donating it to anyone around the world in the social network. And if somebody wants it, we come to your house with DHL Go Green, or they meet you in person, so there's either online or offline. And basically we try and bring away the friction of the donation part and kind of decentralize it globally. So it works in China, works in the US, Europe, and we want to bring everyone together to share in a better way. So what we do then, we make you earn discounts instead of money to then shop independent designers all around the world with a direct channel. And we also tell you what your impact is on average, of course. So if it's a t-shirt, we research the numbers and we can tell you how much water and CO2 you're kind of recirculating in the system. So, you know, instead of throwing away, we can recirculate and we can empower the consumers to I would say a frictionless, again, shopping experience, because the problem with Instagram is that if you want to buy from an independent designer in Korea, first of all, you've got to go to the website. It's going to be in Korean probably. And then you have no guarantee on shipping, on returns. And it's really hard basically to get around. So that's why, you know, Zara, H&M, I mean, they're not brands, they're more of systems, I think. You know, it brings you as a consumer in a very simple way to just pop in and pop out with Saks. And we want to bring this kind of ease digitally to empower the small brands that cannot afford, as I was actually. I was also a tailor, so I also, you know, really relate to that. And I used to have my small label, and it was really hard to reach the market because I did not have these huge stores in the centers of the cities, you know. So this is basically one of the best practice. So this is how we want to promote the giveaway part. We don't want to do it in a kind of, you know, I would say like, I would say maybe almost Greenpeace manner, no, of saying this is wrong, this is wrong. We're trying to do it more in a gamified and fun environment. So what we do, this is an example that we did with Estée Lauder. So we involve also brands to do this kind of thing. And this was shooting they did with Next Model's management of influencers. They're like the managers of Dua Lipa, you know, they have all the stars and so on. So basically they created 10 t-shirts for 10 of their influencers, and they shot them to bring awareness against breast cancer. So it was a really good cause. Unfortunately, the t-shirts were only 10, and there was no intention of selling them afterwards or doing anything with them. You know, they were being basically thrown away after the campaign because they could not even sell them legally. So what we said is like, why don't we donate them globally, right? So we did a calculation. So for the 10 t-shirts, it was 190 kilos of CO2 on average, and 27,000 liters of water on average for the production of the 10 t-shirts. So then they kind of realized that they were not throwing away $100. They were actually throwing away resources. And that's why they actually got on board, and we decided to donate them globally to the basically followers of these influencers. So everything was much more kind of social and fun to do. And it was a very, very positive impact. So how did we get the numbers? So the more we deep dive in the numbers, the more we realize that, you know, as consumers, we really don't know all these things. So, you know, I probably don't even know now, I mean, what I'm wearing as in resources, right? But we have this in food, we have this in many other products that we buy, but we don't have it in fashion. So after that, the idea came to build an open source project, which we launched actually in Switzerland a couple of weeks ago, also with Fashion Revolution, Global Shapers, all together to try and build a fashion footprint calculator. So it's basically a very short amount of 12 questions that divide the results in 3 sections of how we consume. So how do we buy, how much do we buy, how do we wash our clothes, and what do we do at the end of the cycle? Do we throw them away, do we sell them, do we donate? And we actually got already an estimation. So first of all, it's fun. You know, a lot of people started sharing the results. You know, when people can show they're involved personally with their face, with their avatar, it makes them much more involved. And we saw, you know, like in a day, without any marketing, there was like 500 reposts, which for us, you know, we didn't do anything, we didn't expect it. And a lot of people were starting to share in a very fun way of, you know, what's my impact? So, you know, your wardrobe impact, your shopping habits, and your washing practice. And then we kind of give the score in a fun way with emojis. You know, you can be a planet savior, you can be an average consumer, or you can be a kind of a planet vampire. So these are the 3 categories that we're doing. And now we're starting to push them also with the schools. This is kind of an educational program to make everyone understand that, you know, how you buy and how you treat your clothes has an actual effect on the world that surrounds us. And the good thing is that we saw, maybe it's a little bit biased because the people that follow us on social media are more inclined of, you know, treating clothes properly. But 63% actually donate their clothes after they stop using them, so that was really encouraging. And a lot of people buy vintage clothes. It was 43%, so that was really nice. And most of the people buy clothes only when they need them. But this, of course, we want to start spreading it more and getting more information maybe from also areas of the world where this is not happening so much. For example, in Asia, it's not a big trend still, vintage and all this kind of approach. So, I mean, there's still very initial numbers, but it shows that at least here it's good. And so basically the concept of the platform is to shop in a closed loop system. So, you know, it's not a sustainable or a zero waste system or anything. It's just, you know, providing the tools to the consumers and the brands themselves to recirculate what's not worn and what's not sold in a different way. These are some of the voices that supported us until now, and you know, we interview them, we do sponsored giveaways. Anna De Russo, she's from the former editor of Vogue Japan. We did a really nice, a different kind of campaign with her, for example, of empowering young designers. So she was going through schools and saying, look, do an awesome drawing, tag me on Instagram, and the winners were actually going to win her amazing pieces of her wardrobe that she wanted to get rid of in a more creative way. So it's basically a tool that anyone can use as you want. And this is the QR code to have a look at the fashionfootprint.org. If you have an iPhone, you can just open the camera, zoom on it, and it should pop up a link. So if you want to try, let's see if it works. Without an app, you just look at it with the camera and the small links should pop down. So yeah, you can start taking the questions, and what we do, we try not just to bring awareness, but also action. So when you receive the results, you'll also have a button to start giving your clothes and start kind of recirculating as much as possible.
So if I want to give away some of my clothes, and I live in, I don't know, the Philippines.
Yeah.
Can that be done?
Absolutely,
yet?
absolutely.
How
it's
do you-
totally global.
Right.
We don't have restrictions in China, which is great. That's also for brands, by the way. I mean, I was struggling so much to reach the market directly. You know, the fact of being 100% global, I think, is really helpful, both for consumers and
So logistically,
brands.
that's not an issue.
apart from North Korea, maybe. But
Yeah.
I think most of the world is pretty open to DHL. So.
And do you think this can destigmatize the idea of second-hand clothes? Because I think culturally in a lot of places around the world, second-hand clothes are still seen as, you know, being a bit grubby.
Absolutely.
Or I know I was recently in Athens doing actually a conference with Fashion Revolution, and we did a thing that we called the disco make, where we get people to come and basically upcycle, customize old clothes. And a lot of even the students that were coming, they were all saying, but in Greece we really don't like to wear second-hand clothes.
Yes, yes.
And that seemed to me something that we really have to overcome.
Yes, I think also brands, luxury brands, were very not inclined into this. So for us, we were really terrified at the beginning. You know, our co-founder, she was working Giorgio Armani. We come from kind of, I would say, luxury fashion, and the fact of having, you know, $0 giveaways next to maybe $200,000 diamond colliers, which you can find on the platform. So there's no kind of, I would say it's democratic in that sense. There's from the $200,000 diamonds to the $10 plastic sunglasses. So we don't have that kind of differentiation of pricing. We select them more on content, but it was really really difficult at the beginning to install this circularity 3 years ago when we started out. So now it's becoming a trend and so on. Also, Lane Crawford Group is one of the biggest retailers in Asia. They have an awesome project with Luxarity, which is their non-profit. And it's becoming a trend, fortunately enough, now. And they are actually gathering the clothes from their VIP clients and reselling them in their pop-up stores inside their Lane Crawford Group, giving the money for positive impact startups in fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows, I think, you know, how the industry is really waking up so fast. It's kind of imminent. I saw like the last year, a lot of luxury groups opening up to circularity. I just saw Balmain, I didn't see it personally, but I heard they are launching now a program where you can buy their clothes and then you have a coupon, and then you can give them back to Balmain, and they're going to give you money or discounts in exchange. So this concept is starting.
It's still promoting people buying more stuff though, isn't it?
Yeah, but at least
ultimately.
there's a solution to put back in the system what you extracted.
Yeah, if they're
Because-
taking responsibility for their own garments.
Yeah, because until now we've just seen platforms where you can, grab stuff, from all the normal e-commerce.
Mhm.
Either it's vintage or it's new stuff.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the challenge. And by using VIPs or influencers, that's how we try and get away the stigma of making it, curated, luxurious, and fun.
And on the fashion footprint calculator, do you think people are telling the truth?
Hopefully for them. I mean, I don't care. I mean, it's their life.
But there's a kind of element of showing off, isn't there?
Well, for sure. I've seen mostly positive results. I didn't see
Right.
so many of the ones that are not positive. So
Yeah. But I think taking responsibility
Yeah.
for our own fashion footprint is a really brilliant thing.
well,
that
it's
a
the
lot of people
first
would
step,
like to do.
and maybe they do it, they're embarrassed, maybe they start changing for real, then they'll do it again in some months, maybe they'll share it then.
Mhm.
So I don't know if they're, but as long as it opens the eyes a little bit. I mean,
Mhm.
they're not exact numbers because that's impossible. So again, I mean, it should be kind of an idea that kind of sinks in and gives you a better understanding, I would say.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that you're going to have lots of questions, but I just want to ask Hasna before open it to the audience, just about the repairs and alterations culture that you're really tapping into.
Yeah,
Do you see that as a big growth area?
definitely. And I was talking to Ursula about it when I met her at Harvey Nichols, and there is more and more designers like Patrick McDowell, who is here. Oh, yeah. And making more with waste, and that's a great initiative, and it's actually, just like I mentioned in the slide, waste isn't waste until we waste it. It's actually a great resource we shouldn't discard, and we shouldn't look down on it. And same as second-hand clothes. I know in Tunisia people are crazy about clothes that are imported from, even though they are already been worn or completely worn off, and there's a good demand for that. Unfortunately, the cycle isn't circular. A lot of those items end up in discarded in landfill, but it's also a cultural approach to it. And so we are seeing it with the feedback we've got about taking care of items and repairing them. It's just that the lifestyle doesn't enable it, and that's where the technology is there to make it seamless and effortless, and in a way you don't need to think about it, or don't need to think about the creative process to repurpose what you have in your wardrobe.
And you are connecting people through the app with alterations and services.
Yes.
Is that a growth area, do you think?
So I think the figure is that the amount of clothes we don't wear in a wardrobe is as high as 10 billion pounds. So, and it's growing more and more. And
So it's a massive business opportunity.
It's a massive business opportunity. It's not just something we should look at. And there's a lot of work to do though, and not only educational work, but also rallying people around it. And I know that brands want to take over the secondary market and get into that, stepping into reclaiming the secondary market of their own product, to make sure that they keep the brand value, their brand value.
This is instead of burning it.
Instead of burning it, and also instead of just not being able to fix the price as well. So that's another. And repairing them, and also reselling them.
Well, it's super interesting, and it feels like there really are things happening and changing for the better. With the three of you at least. I'd love to throw it open to the audience. I'm sure you have lots of questions. There's been all sorts of issues raised by the speakers.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it really depends on the giver side. So you should pay for the shipping. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So if it's a normal giver, you're probably going to pay the shipping of that. If it's a brand doing it, they're probably going to pay the shipping themselves. So when you donate or give, you can decide if you want to pay the shipping, yes or no. And actually, it's funny because there's an example of what you were saying. So, because there's a brand that we're collaborating also with Fashion Revolution. There's the talk, by the way, on Saturday. That we're doing with Skim, which is a brand in London actually, and together we're doing a crowdsourcing giveaway campaign to find 22 pairs of jeans, and these jeans are going to be paid the shipping from the brand, for example, from the public. So it's a crowdsourcing upcycling capsule collection, which is going to actually be done by, if I'm not wrong, the designer of Chanel shoes and accessories. So it's a very special small capsule collection. And again, it's this idea of, you know, crowdsourcing, secondary market upcycling, and it's really, you know, getting into the brands, and they are reclaiming this. So yeah, there are different ways in which you can do it. Actually, DHL does it already. So it's a special program. It's called DHL Go Green. I encourage anyone that has an e-commerce to look into it. It's a brand new program that has, I think, a couple of years. It was much more expensive. Now it's much more accessible for anyone. It's basically 10 cents more on the kilo, so it's really doable. And they do plant trees. They do use renewable energy, and it's really a 50-50 balance of CO2. There's a deeper description than this. But basically that's what they really do, and they use bicycles for the final mile. They try and, you know, kind of do less harm possible. So in the limits, we try and do what we can on that. Yeah. Well, no, actually I think that all big drive, this is what we're trying to do. It's a bottom-up approach. The consumers lead at the end of the day. I mean, if a consumer wants something like the spinners, people are going to start producing spinners, you know. So if people really want sustainable fashion, I think that's going to be what the industry is going to feed the consumers, you know. So, and the more the consumers can start, and the brands to recirculate, because most of the solutions are mostly up in the supply chain. Everyone is talking about circularity, especially with chemicals or threading and recycling, but there's not so much action that can actually, at the moment, be done by the consumers at scale for what we saw. I mean, there's a lot of swap events, there's a lot of local amazing things going on, but we haven't seen something that can really bring everyone together and collectively do a bottom-up push. I think, you know, the whole world has to change and towards a circular economy. It's not only fashion, it's also who makes the phones, who makes food. You know, it's kind of the third industrial revolution, right? I mean, everyone has to become digital. It's Internet of Things, it's circularity. And I think it will kind of change. I mean, we're working on our side, which is fashion. But I think that even like if you create a car, it should be more sustainable, right? If you're creating a luxury car, it should be an EV, it should be smart, it should be digital. If you're doing food, it should be organic. If you're doing anything, I think, brand new businesses, if they're like 3D printing, they have to be, you know, biodegradable, how do you say? So I think that anything you do now should be with that thought of doing the best you can, really. And then kind of technology is going to catch up, I think. I heard also Apple, they are going towards circular economy. They're starting to get the phones back, deassemble them, reuse parts. So I think it's not going to be instant, but I think it's for sure happening. And
so you scan the head, and there's this Japanese company, Zozo Suit, who scans bodies. So they send you a suit, you wear it, and the app asks you to turn around, and they take the measures of your body, and then you have the ability to shop products almost made to measure, and it's super exciting. It's still emerging, but there are loads of technology going towards digitizing this process. And when you made your presentation, I was really excited about the virtual helmet, the virtual Oculus, and being able to see the design before creating it. And the fact that you see it and you put together things and you before producing it, you can also correct or test with your future consumer or sell it as enabling pre-orders. So, and this in the app is in our app at least, is super exciting because we will be able to gather the data like sizes and it's like my husband always says that we are 3 billion men and we are sharing 5 sizes. This can be sustainable and this can be this has to be disrupted, and I think your technology and your approach is definitely going towards that, and the app we are building is also a platform for this technology.
My approach is a little bit different. I come from classic bespoke tailoring, so I was kind of taking measurements all the time, looking for the perfect fit. But it was really different when I started having more and more clients from different areas of the world. Like the Americans wanted a big slap, you know, long little sleeve.
Yeah.
And I come from the Italian tailoring where it has to be all perfect, nice and short. So kind of sizing is a little bit of an idea, really. Really, that's when I kind of shift to ready to wear because I realized that there was no perfect size for anyone, you know.
Yeah.
It's like the Balenciaga big jackets, they're super cool, but they're not the right size. You know, so it's like hip hop is different. So I don't think that size is, I mean, for hats, probably, I mean, yes, because.
But I think there's a
they're not
big
for all
problem, isn't
products.
there, with people ordering things in 3 different sizes and then sending, you know, 2 of the things back.
Yeah.
And that seems to become common practice,
Yeah.
which is creating a huge amount
Yeah.
of waste and
Yeah.
unnecessary shipping.
Yeah.
So that would seem, yeah.
And adding to waste not only that the clothes isn't worn, but by the time that the item is put back into the website, someone who would have been interested in that size would have missed it, and the item turns out unsold and discarded at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, I made some of the hats so that they were like vases. I mean, I'm just gonna pick out these ones. I mean, this one over here, which has the flower in it. You can't really change the structure of the hat, but it's more about how you can
Change the flower.
change the flower and customize it yourself. Yeah.
But could you make some kind of modular system where you
I
can...
could definitely add to it. Yeah, I could definitely add to it because I already have the digital shape, so I could do shapes on top of it or work around it. I don't think I could take much away from the shape, but I could add
But
to
you could,
it.
you could be
So I can take the shape that's already been made away from shapes on top, effectively. But I think I'd have to assemble it. And so figuring out how the joining can work if someone was to print it themselves.
Do you want to start, Leah?
Yeah, I mean, I think for hats, it's a bit of a difficult one because I think it does rely on a lot of press. So I think at this point I'm having to just focus on certain people that maybe relate to the same message I'm trying to put across. I think at this point I'm quite reliant on that as a small brand. Yeah.
And
Well, for us, we're actually waiting to find the right partner. It used to be made by, but then it closed down when we were starting it. was basically to start really doing due diligence to the right brands. This question actually came before from the back of how to rank higher in search, for example. So the idea for us would be to really do the proper due diligence, have a proper stamp for the sustainable brands, not done by us, it has to be not biased, of course. And by doing so, we would like to then start ranking sustainable brands and products higher in search instead of paying ads, because it's expensive for brands to become more sustainable, and we want them to kind of use this money to improve their brands more than pay ads. As for us, the giveaway is our best marketing tool, for example. So we use different techniques of ads. A lot of brands say, how do I make myself shown better in the platform? We don't say like pay ads, we say do giveaways. So it's a different approach. And by ranking higher the sustainable brands, I think like the consumer will naturally fall into a more sustainable way of shopping without even noticing. So it shouldn't be stressful for the consumer. It shouldn't be imposed. It should be, I think, very natural. If I want this, but I want it in organic cotton, I should be able to find it. But now it's really hard. So just make it very simple.
One of the feedback we've got so far is that people wanted to know the composition of their wardrobe, not only in a monetary value, but the composition as fabrics, material, and how environmental friendly it is or not. And so this is, and also from brands actually, they want to educate their customers into this is made of organic cotton, or they want to, or recycled plastic. They want to use the platform as also a tool to bring awareness about their efforts towards sustainability. So in terms of educations, I think both of our apps are bringing that, but it's hard as well to fight the conspicuous consumption with this small.
Do you have to pay to subscribe to your app?
It's free for the user. You would pay if you request a service, but otherwise it's completely free.
So then you monetize from the service providers.
Exactly, we monetize from the service providers, and if you shop on the platform, we get a reward on that. We don't push for shopping, but if you would shop, we would get a reward, and then we process data in an anonymous way. So it's aggregated data rather than individual data. And what the takeaway from Fashion for Good, because we were one of the startups there, is that actually brands are not interested in individual data. They are more interested in trends and knowing what's the clusters of users and their behaviors, more than having person by person.
Do people worry about their data being used in this way? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There just seems to be.
Oh, yeah, as long as you get value from your data and you are giving, you are having back your data back and you are in control of it. There's no worry about it, and we do it in a very user-friendly way and not in an aggressive or.
We give it to Facebook, so I think we can give it to you. Yeah, sure. Well, Depop or others at the moment, what we see, like Depop is really strong on vintage, so we don't want to get in the peer-to-peer marketplace at all. What we do is only giveaways peer-to-peer, so it's more of a tool than a marketplace. And on the other side, I would say probably Farfetch is kind of a competitor in the sense of the business model, but not really, because they only do luxury, for example. They only do, it's a different business model basically. So at the moment we didn't really find the circular economy system where you can give away your clothes and buy from others, but the more we do this, is the better. I mean, the faster the transition goes to a circular economy, the better. I mean, the Depop, you can sell the clothes, which are great, and we don't want to take away that market from them. But maybe sometimes it's not easy to sell everything you got. And instead of being lazy and throwing it away, maybe give it a second chance and just donate it to someone else. But for competition, it means if there is, it's good. It means everyone's going in the right direction, so it should be good. Well, it's like food. I mean, if a McDonald's has been done, you won't throw it away. I mean, it's done. So I think that you're referring to like Zara or H&M pieces that are donated, maybe on the platform.
That kind of thing.
Okay. I mean, if they're produced, recirculate them. Don't throw them away, or use them to do cleaning or anything you want. Just don't throw them away. So this is what we try and advocate. But for sure, we will not let.
On the same level as the sustainable brands.
No, but we will not make sure. We make sure that they're not selling. I mean, they would not even sell on our platform because they have different business models. But we try and have some guideline of there's no fur policy. There's no weird leathers policy. We have a series of products that we ban absolutely from the platform. But most of all, again, as you said, the consumers are used to a certain amount of experience, right? So. We try and, again, with the big data of our users to kind of bespoke the content, but also the products. So different from music in the sense that, music is great because the artist doesn't pay to be in your playlist. I think the artist should not pay in the fashion sector, pay so much to be in your wardrobe, as in marketing I'm talking about. So we're trying also to empower smaller brands to reach the wardrobes of the consumers that would never discover them other ways. Small designers are really have a difficulty to reach the consumers on Instagram, for example, because there's 2 billion people, right? So we're trying to, kind of build taste algorithms and spending power algorithms to kind of have a balance on that. And then, but on top of that, the priority goes to the most sustainable brands. So it's layers on top of the other.
Great. So on that note, on the great algorithm in the sky, thank you very much. Super interesting presentations, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. Thank you, Sarabande.